This Dutchman has been an absolute nuisance to the Formula One world because he's just destroying everyone. This feisty young boy was here to make a mark, and he has. Count it with me. The youngest F1 driver to reach Q3, the youngest driver to score points, the youngest F1 winner, the most overtakes in a single season with 78, the youngest F1 driver with a Grand Slam. That is Max Verstappen, but his days at the top are now numbered, and it's all because of a bunch of old people. First of all, his father Jos Verstappen, the Redbull director Helmut Marko, but the biggest blow comes from the 65-year-old legend Adrian Newey. Newey was hired at Redbull way back in 2006 just for his massive experience as an aerodynamicist. Thanks to his cars, Verstappen went from 214 points in 2020 to 413.5 in 2021. And after breaking all previous records with his 454 points finish in 2022, there was still more left in the car. In 2023, went on to break his own record time with a 575-point finish, making Newey one of the most famous engineers in recorded F1 history. In his 40 whole years career of building cars, he alone has managed to grasp 13 driver championships across 3 teams so far. Now, the guy who designed the car is leaving, and Red Bull is about to go down. This all began this year when the team principal at Red Bull came under controversy about an inappropriate conduct with a female team member. The team certainly took a hit. At one point, there were even reports of a power struggle between Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, and Verstappen's father was also not looking very happy in the garage, to the extent that Marko even hinted to leave the team altogether. However, he didn't, and honestly, it would have all simmered down until Adrian announced that he'll be leaving Red Bull, and that's when the first domino fell. It's the time when, after 3 years of suppression under Red Bull supremacy, teams are beginning to pop their heads out. Whatever advantage Newey was able to give the Red Bull cars after the ground effect regulations, something which has always been his forte, is beginning to die down. If you just look at the comparison of how much the teams have improved from just the last year, it will be hard not to notice a trend against the reigning world champion. The backtracker McLarens that only managed to bag a mere 17 points after 8 races last season are now routinely getting podiums. The same trend goes for Ferrari, but while other teams are taking many steps forward, Mercedes is getting forced down. Not because they are getting bad, but because they are not doing as much. That's the reason Mercedes was one of the first to extend a hand to Newey. Team principal Toto has been waiting ever since for Newey to come his way, saying he'd love for Newey to join his side. And despite the fact that Verstappen is signed at least until 2028 with Red Bull, Toto is also making it no secret about his desire to have Max replace Hamilton as well. Doesn't hurt to dream, does it? But while this side of the grid seems ready to pounce, there is another team that seems not so far behind, or maybe in reality, even more ahead of Mercedes than many would like to admit. That is Ferrari. They have already snatched away Lewis Hamilton to replace Carlos Sainz, and they are supposedly very keen on getting Newey on board as well. Hamilton too talked about the privilege to work with him. Quote, "If I was able to do a list of people that I would love to work with, he would absolutely be on the top of it." Surprisingly now, Adrian Newey has also shown his interest in the prancing horse factory. Replying to Hamilton's praise, Newey said he was flattered and that he was very tempted to join Scuderia Ferrari. All this romance, the great Newey, is putting Verstappen and Red Bull under a great deal of pressure. There is no doubt that as long as Newey stays, he will continue to work on their next season car as well. But the biggest challenge for any team is not the next season, it's the season after it. New regulations are coming in the start of 2026, and most prominent in those are the engine regulations. There will be a 3 times more powerful MGU-K unit in the 2026 cars with an output of 350 kilowatts instead of the 120 output we are currently seeing. There will also be a manual override option which will allow drivers to use their battery reserves when already going at their limit, further increasing the top speed of the cars and allowing more overtakes. Plus, the costly and complex MGU-H unit will be completely stripped off the 2026 Formula One cars, which might be a good idea for cost reduction, but it also means that will most certainly be a turbo lag when accelerating after every deep corner. So, with such big changes approaching on the horizon, Red Bull will not not have the luxury of having Newey by their side, who is not just a guru in adapting cars to newer regulations, but actually enjoys F1 regulation changes. And add that to the fact that from 2026 onwards, Red Bull will have to make their own engines altogether, where they previously relied on Honda to do it for them. This will make Red Bull the only team to start making engines on their own in the year where F1 regulations are mostly about the engine. So, in their very first go, their factory not only has to make regulation-compliant engines, but they also have to make them fast enough to take the first podium every race, something that the rival companies have struggled with for such a long time, and they are still failing at it. But is this all really inevitable? What if Verstappen leaves Red Bull altogether? Yeah, that could help some of the threats Verstappen faces at his home team. Let's go ask him. Quote, "I'm quite a loyal person, and it is something that means a lot to me. That is what I request from the team, and so far that has always been great, and that is what I want to keep for a long time. It would be amazing to finish my career here at Red Bull. All the years staying basically at one team would be incredible. Verstappen is not leaving Red Bull anytime soon. Is that really loyalty or a mistake? We'll have to see, but with other teams inching closer and closer every day, things are certainly not looking very bright for the 3-time world champion, as long as you completely ignore his innate talent. Here's the catch. An 800-kilogram Formula One is only as good as the 80-kilogram human inside of it. If you look at the current season alone, Norris and Piastri are routinely finishing anywhere from positions 2 through 6. On average, they have a qualifying lap time difference of 0.042 seconds, but the man who's faster than anyone on the grid has an average qualifying difference with his teammate Sergio Perez, who, by the way, is in the exact same car as Verstappen, a massive 0.3 seconds. Now, Checo isn't a bad driver. He was the guy who held up Hamilton in an equally matched car in 2021. He's the one they call Street Racing King and the Tire Whisperer. So, considering all of that, such a big difference in times could only mean one thing, that Verstappen is simply drawing so much more from the same car, all thanks to his racing genius. And maybe that will be Red Bull's final saving grace for the future, but as of now, even the 2024 Drivers' Championship does not look secure for Verstappen.